From Dennis on Zarigo tonight, coming right after Case Files. He's got a 2-for-1 special this evening on KTN News.
That's right, and this is a story, of course, that has gripped the headlines. For the last month or so, 11 directors have been killed so far. 4 remain missing. We're dying for land in this country. Remember, we said our focus is on land. So Dennis Ontarigo will be delving into that Kiwiri land saga and telling you why those who should be arresting the perpetrators are themselves interested in the land. That's a story you don't want to miss. It's on The Lead, the hashtag on social media. The Lead 22155 is the SMS number. We look forward to hearing from you on that.
Of course, we've got other stories from around the country and the region in East Africa. Here are now the highlights on KTN Weekend Prime.
Mimi tuliwachana tu na yeye asubuhi. Saa dakika kidogo aliniacha tu hapa kwa nyumba. Dakika kidogo ndio nilisikia duru. Kutoka tu nikasikia shehe wameuawa wakiwa na Josephat.
The inside story of the murder mysteries of Moranga's Kiwiri land buying company.
The bodies, without a doubt, belong to male Muslim young men who believe are targets of the state in this campaign against violent extremism.
And concerns over the unresolved cases of missing young men in suspected terror links. Plus, 21 people killed in Mogadishu suicide attacks. And renowned South Sudan opposition politician Peter Abdul Rahman Sule is assassinated. Thank you for making the time to join us tonight. Our sign language interpreter is William Siller. There are growing concerns among human rights activists that the mysterious disappearance and possible murder of mostly young Muslim men remains unresolved.
Just 2 days ago, 3 bodies were found dumped in a river in Moranga, and 2 of those bodies are yet to be identified. And as KTN's Ian Wafula reports, the incident has sparked debate over suspected extrajudicial killings. This was a small electronic shop belonging to Hamza Mohammed Bari and his family. From phones, accessories to money transfer services, the shop made just enough for them. And as basic as it was, Hamza decided to fit in CCTV cameras for security purposes. Little did he know that they would capture the moments when he was last seen until his family finds him, as he is still missing. It was a day just like any other. Hamza and his colleague were at the shop. They had just returned from the afternoon prayers at a nearby mosque. They were attending to 2 clients when 2 men captured by this camera entered the shop, posing as regular shoppers. His colleague, whom we'll call Ahmed, was at the back of the shop at the time.
Walikuwa wanaulizana prices ya mobiles. Katolewa Samsung Galaxy A5, A3 na S5, 3 mobile phones. Wakajua bei, jamaa akaambia everything. Baada ya hapo jamaa aliregesha mobile phones kwa meza.
It would become apparent that the 2 had no good intentions when they were joined by 2 other people captured by the outdoor camera. They stood strategically within the shop and then identified themselves.
Kaambia sisi tumetoka polisi, tunakupeleka kwa police station for investigation na utarudishwa, haina shida. Ndio hapo sasa jamaa akaniita akaniambia nimefungwa, kuja ufungwe sentence.
Hamza did not resist arrest. He was handcuffed and taken away. This video in slow motion images captured the moments when Hamza was last seen. By the time his family contacted us, it had been 4 days since his disappearance. But probably of more significance, it was just a week after the Garissa University attack, and security agencies were conducting major operations in the town.
Wakati nilikosa gari, sikusimama. I wanted to confirm whether those guys were from the police department. Nilienda direct kwa police station na nikaambiwa hakuna kitu. Hapo niliandika statement.
It has been 5 months now since Hamza Mohammed Bari disappeared. The family now drained emotionally, physically and financially as they try to unravel his whereabouts. Even the announcement that bodies of 3 men of the Somali community were found in a river in Moranga Saturday had lifted up their spirits. But after identification, none of the bodies was Hamza's. One of the 3 bodies was identified to be that of Abdiaziz Yusuf from Mandera. Quite a somber mood when his family showed up at the County Council of Murang'a funeral home to pick his body. Yusuf, just like Hamza, had disappeared under mysterious circumstances. Cases of disappearances of individuals, mostly from the Somali community, have been reported to be on the rise since the Garissa University attack, and now human rights activist Alamin Kimathi says the government should speed up investigations into the incidences and end the suffering of their families and relatives.
Our appeal is to the government of the Republic of Kenya to probe, to investigate this, but because they are bringing out a lot of resentment within the society. The bodies, without a doubt, belong to male Muslim young men who believe are targets of the state in this campaign against violent extremism and veering towards terrorism.
The government has been accused of carrying out extrajudicial killings, mostly linked to such disappearances, but President Uhuru Kenyatta has over time stood firm, denying any such claims while stating that his government does not support such injustices.
This government is going to be very firm on those issues that are terrorism related. We have seen the damage that terrorism causes to our nation, and we will not in any way compromise the security of millions of innocent Kenyans who are being targeted by a specific view. But at the end of the day, that's said and done, it must be done in a manner that conforms to the norms of normal human rights and to ensure that no abuses take place. But I have not heard of any confirmation, save for the rumors and the accusations that have been put out there.
Enforced disappearances and extrajudicial killings are crimes against humanity. And we are not saying that this has happened, but there is evidence of the probability of this having happened, and we can only do this if a just process of verification and a process of investigation is done.
The stories of Hamza Mohamed Bari and other missing persons have prompted online campaigns such as the Stop Enforced Disappearances aimed at addressing the ongoing mystery. Ian Wafula, KTN News.
Car bombings in 2 Somali cities have left 21 people dead. 5 civilians were killed in the capital, Mogadishu, and 16 soldiers died in Kismayo in a suicide attack claimed by Al-Shabaab. Aaron Ocheng reports.
At least 21 people have been killed in 2 separate car bomb attacks in 2 cities in Somalia. Police and military sources in Mogadishu indicate that a car exploded in the capital at a busy junction on Saturday evening, killing at least 5 people. The explosion occurred close to the Internal Security Ministry and the Juba Hotel.
So far, we know 5 civilians died in this evening's blast and 7 others were injured. This means Al-Shabaab is still strong and we just have to live in fear. We don't know what they'll do next.
Witnesses also say they had gunfire during the incident. There was no immediate claim of responsibility. Earlier on Saturday, Al-Shabaab claimed responsibility for a suicide car bomb attack at Kismayo University, which is being used as a base for training government troops. The attack by a member of the armed group, in which at least 16 troops died, was launched as soldiers were lining up for training, military officials said.
The incident is still being investigated to establish how the suicide bomber managed to pass by several checkpoints outside the camp.
Spokesman for military operation for Al-Shabaab said the group was behind the bombing in the southern port city. A minibus loaded with explosive was detonated inside the training part of the military camp. The incident is still being investigated by Somali military. Al-Shabaab group, which is fighting to overthrow the internally backed government in Mogadishu, has lost control of most of its territory to African Union troops in recent years, but has stepped up attacks in the capital and elsewhere. Aaron Ocheng, KTN News.
2 suspected terrorists were arrested in Garissa today in possession of an assortment of firearms and explosives. This is in addition to the 7 suspects arrested yesterday in a 2-day interagency security operation in the northern Kenya town. According to a tweet from the Interior Ministry of Kenya, the 2 suspects are said to be linked to Mohamed Kuno, also known as Gamadere, the man alleged to have masterminded the deadly Garissa attack that killed 147 students earlier this year. The operation began after one man arrested while trying to leave Ifo camp in Dadaab refugee camp allegedly confessed to police that he and several accomplices were on a mission to carry out terror attacks in different unnamed locations in Kenya. Now let's cross over to South Sudan, where there are reports that renowned opposition politician Peter Abdulrahman Sule has been assassinated. Sule's body is said to have been recovered at the border of South Sudan and Uganda. The family of the leader of the United Democratic Front Party had reported him missing in Uganda since last month. They say that he had gone to Adjumani in northern Uganda to visit some South Sudanese friends, but was allegedly abducted by plainclothes security personnel. Last year, the South Sudanese government prevented Sule from traveling to Addis Ababa to participate in the peace talks. He sought asylum in Uganda. Sule's death comes days after the murdered journalist of Peter Moy Julius.
Now to a story that has grabbed national headlines and has shaken the security agencies. 11 directors of Kiwiri land buying company have either been killed or are missing in a vicious elimination scheme in Murang'a County. The government has blown hot and cold on the gangland executions, but as KTN's Dennis Onsarigo reports, it appears that those supposed to arrest the perpetrators of the killings themselves have an interest in land transactions. Here's the lead with the details.
Crammed in a small office, the only indicator of an ambitious land buying company is a new company secretary. John Megumutoro took over the controversial company after a series of killings of directors. 11 of them have either been killed or mysteriously disappeared, never to be traced. Kiwiri, which loosely translates to knife to the body, has been around since early 60s and has quietly been transacting its business until news of its directors captured national headlines.
Mimi tuliwachana tu na yeye asubuhi. Saa dakika kidogo aliniacha tu hapa kwa nyumba. Dakika kidogo ndio nilisikia duru. Kutoka tu nikasikia shehe wameuawa wakiwa na Josephat. Sasa mimi nikakimbia nikapata tu wameuliwa wako hapo chini.
The husband Zakaria Chege and Josephat Kibe, directors of the troubled company, were gunned down as they left their houses for a meeting at the Lands Ministry in Nairobi. They became directors in 2011.
Na kuna zile register wako wanapeleka huko kwa Ardhi House.
Josephat sasa ndio alianza kukaguliwa, sasa kukaguliwa zile risasi amepigwa. Sasa mtu wa mchari mahali alikuwa amelala akamwangalia, sasa risasi ilikuwa imemuongea hapa, ikatokea hapa hivi. Ya kajaketi tu ya ndani ndio ilikuwa tuna hiyo kitu. Hakuna kitu alikuwa naye. Tukatoka kwa huyo tukaenda kwa sasa mzee wa huyu. Kwenda kwa mzee wa huyu. Sasa huyo alikuwa amegongwa risasi nne ya kichwa. Moja hapa. Yaani tuseme kama zilikuwa zimepigwa round hapa. Na zote zilikuwa zinachomokea hapa mbele. Uangalie kwa mfuko huyo hakuna kitu alikuwa naye. Walikuwa wamepora kila kitu.
Sasa tu kujua ni wawani, tulisikia ni watu walikuwa na pikipiki wawili. Wao ndio waliwashuti, lakini wenye waliona ni watoto wa primary wenye walikuwa wanaenda shule tu, ilikuwa asubuhi.
Mimi wakati ule nilienda hapo nikaangalia hao watu mahali wamelala. Mimi ile kitu tu nilitoa kwa mdomo yangu. Nilisema hili shamba ikae na watu wakae.
The gangland executions coming barely 3 weeks after a motor vehicle of the company's director was discovered burnt and the director missing. He has not been traced since.
also just who is behind the killings. KTN News has established that London money at the center of the killings and some of the directors now missing or killed have played into the hands of vicious group of politicians and provincial administrators.
Sasa ndio county commander nikamwambia, sasa hakuna haja, hata heri mtumalize sisi wote mchukue shamba. Kwa maana hata tunasidwa, kila state wa kwanza akiwa hai tukaenda baka Muranga, tukaandika statement. Tukarabu tukatoka Muranga, tukaenda baka Gatanga, tukaandika statement. Mtu akiwa hai. Na sasa aliuliwa. Alikuwa ameandika statement akiwa hai na ameuliwa. Sasa wakati ule mimi nitauliwa, serikali ndio itakuchukua hatua. Akaniambia hapana, wewe pembeleza hawa watu. Nikamwambia hapana, hakuna maneno ya kupembeleza watu. Tunataka mkichukua hawa watu, kwanza wakati ule mtawachukua muweke kwa gari, mtuletee wale wameua hawa watu. Tuwaone ndio hawa sasa, nasi tukubali mchukue mwili muweke kwa gari, mpeleke moshari. Kwa maana sasa nyinyi tunaandika statement, tukitoka kwa statement mtu akiwa hai anakuja anagongwa. Hakuna hatua mnachukua. Mnakuja mnaweka kwa gari, mnapeleka moshari. Mambo inafika mwisho. Sasa tunataka mkichukua hii mili mtuletee hao watu wamefanya hiki kitendo, ama mtumalize sisi wote mchukue shamba.
Sasa hawa saba ndio walijisha hii ikawa inaitwa Kiwiri Comparative Society. Wakati walienda kwa Kenyatta wao kuwa na pesa, walienda kwa Kenyatta akawapa barua, wakaenda banki moja na kuu wakakopea pesa ya kuja kulipa mzigo alikuwa anaitwa A.F.C Rainbow. Wakati walipa ndio waliona ni vizuri watafuta hizo pesa, wakaanza kukatiza shares. Capital shares ilikuwa ni 20 shares kwa kila mtu.
At the time, shareholders of Kiwiri Land Buying Company were paltry 6,000 members.
Grupu ya Kariuki, sema ukweli, wameuza hii shamba sana. Kwa sababu tukisoma register yao na vile wanasema members ni 16,000. Na ile ya Kiwiri inajulikana ni 6,000. Kwa hivyo kuna zaidi members 10,000. Sasa hawa walichaguliwa, walisema hakuna mtu amenunua shamba kutoka kwa Kariuki hivi karibuni, atapewa wale original ndio atapewa na ndio mauaji yote inatufuatilia.
Nothing captures the picture of the Kiwiri land buying saga than a widow and a mother struggling to forget the memory of the husband's killing and the haunting thoughts of a missing son. The husband was the chairman of the Kiwiri company and was hacked to death by a gang of 20 people in the year 2000.
Na unajua yeye alikuwa anasema anataka kila mtu apate haki yake. Akasema hapa iko watoto mayatima, iko wa mama wajane. Sasa akasema yeye atafanya kile yote anaweza aone hawa watu wamepata hiyo, kila mtu mahali yake ya kukaa. Sasa hawa nao walikuwa wanataka wachukue saba wagawe wakiuza. Hata walikuwa wanasema hii shamba sio shamba ya mtu, ni land buying company.
His mistake, he was heading to Thika town to wind up a title issuing deal to genuine shareholders of the company.
Kijana wangu anaitwa Job Mwagi Igumi. Alipotea mwaka jana February, ilikuwa tarehe 25 February. Askari walikuja wakawachukua, na wakiwachukua sijui waliwapeleka wapi. Kutoka hiyo siku tukazurura hiyo police station, alafu tukaanza kuzurura huko mochari. Tukaenda mochari zote, hatukuwaona.
KTN News has established that a gang with the support of the local provincial administration is stopping every new move being made by the new directors of the company. Elimination is driving away those who will want to have an end to the decade-long land tussle.
Siogopi kuuliwa, kwa sababu siku yangu ya kufa ni moja. Na kwa sababu hata mtoto yangu nataka awe na mahali ya kutulia. Kwa sababu hata nikiogopa na sina mahali ya kukaa, atakuwa always ana haya nyumba. Kwa hivyo afadhali nikupe na tupate ukweli. Kwa sababu hao wamekufa wakitafuta ukweli.
A massive fraud has been orchestrated by one of the company directors with the support of local politicians and the police. The gang has sold several pieces of land to multiple buyers, escalating the number of shareholders of the land from 6,000 to 19,000 over a period of 15 years.
Wale wanaua ni upande mwingine, kwa maana hii shamba kuna watu. Sasa wazaona hii manyumba, umeona hii manyumba imejengwa. Kuna watu wengi walikuja wakachukua mashamba ya wenye shamba. Sasa wakatoa pesa na wanakajenga. Sasa wanataka kumaliza wenye shamba, kwa maana wao ni wengi kushida wale wenye hisha. Na sasa zile masasabiki wako nazo ni mambonoko.
By the time KTN News Investigations Desk was visiting the company offices in Muranga, several landowners who bought the land from middlemen were here asking about the status of their title deeds. Land they bought exists, but apparently belongs to several other buyers. It is now emerging that over time senior police officers, former district commissioners from Thika town have looked the other way as directors get hunted down and killed, or the same piece of land is sold to multiple land buyers. All the directors killed are reported to various police stations as having received threats, but nothing moved. They were left to die.
Sasa ndio wanataka kumaliza hawa watu wote ili wawe wamemalizika, ili wasimame wawe ndio watapeana, kwa maana wao ni 13,000 na wenye isha ni watu 5,700. Wakaona sasa wao wakimalizika sisi ndio tutachukua, kwa maana sisi tuko tumesimama imara, kwa maana sasa hii bodi imebakiza mtu mmoja.
Part of the land is also said to have been sold to serving officials of the national and county governments in a massive land fraud that is likely to see genuine shareholders miss out on their land. And indications are that the killings are meant to stop the directors of the company from unearthing an intricate land scam involving powerful individuals in Muranga and Kiambu counties.
Tukifanya mahesabu yetu, vile walienda wakajua madirector ni nani na wanajulikana na hadi watapeana, ndio wanataka kuamaliza, ndio wachukulie hii nafasi wapatie wale wasio wa shamba wanahisha, wale wamenunua baadaye mashamba.
Those bold enough to challenge the killer gangs told KTN News that the killers are known to the government.
Administration yetu Muranga ndio inatumaliza. Kwa hiyo ndio wamechikania na hii mibaji.
The landscape of the more than 2,000-acre piece of land is dotted with construction work that is yet to be completed. Those constructing here were informed the land they coincidentally bought from the company was illegally acquired.
Hata kama nikujia sina wasiwasi. Sababu hata wale walikuwa on the sense, walisikia hiyo maneno ilitamko, wale walikuwa wakienda kasi walilaliswa chini. Walisikia wakisema haya maubwa tumemaliza, inabakia tu ubwa tuine. Sasa tu ubwa tuine ni sisi hatuogopi, kwa sababu hao watu wanatuua tuko nao hapa kijiji. Hakuna hata watu wanatoka bali na anajua mpaka mahali nakaa na pia naenda. Kwa hivyo sina shida ya kuogopa ukufa. I am free to die.
Sio watu wa bali, ni watu wa hapa. Sasa mtu wa bali sasa kama wewe waweza jua mahali mimi napitia usiku na mahali mimi nikiamka napitia wapi. Ni watu wa hapa.
For the mother of Job Mwangi, a missing director of the Kiwiri Land Company, it has been 15 long years. 15 years of waiting for a title deed for a land she says she bought in 1981. 15 years nursing a scar of a husband she lost to a machete welding gang, and 2 years of waiting for a son who will never return.
Mimi ningetaka hii shamba igawe, mtu apatiwe kasehemu yake, hata ikiwa ni kidogo, apatiwe kila mtu sehemu yake. Hii shamba ibaki iwe hakuna chairman, committee, directors, sisi wote tugawie, iwe shamba ya watu.
Ile kitu sisi tungetaka ni tupate title. Serikali iharakishe, hata kama sisi tuko tutakufa, wale watabaki wapewe title. Ndio hii maneno ya vita ikuishi hapa na mauaji. Title deed peke yake.
It is ironical that those who have fought so hard for the land and died while doing the same have not been buried here. Joyce Chege's husband, the latest victim, was buried elsewhere. Residents are no longer sure whose land this is.
Walikuwa wanamwandikia messages, si kumwambia hivyo. kama saa 11 hiyo wakimwambia watamnunua. Alikuwa tu anataka kusaidia watu, lakini sasa wale
threats that continue to keep thousands of genuine landholders and second-generation buyers on the edge, as this land in Kiwiri continues to be a killing field, piling up daily with tales of misery and mystery. Denison Sarigo, The Lead, KTN News.
Indeed, what's sad, as Onsarigo said in that piece, is those who have been killed aren't even buried on the Kiwiri land. No one's sure of who owns the land, honestly.
I think something also for me that stood out was that the people who are doing the killing are well known. Something, unfortunately, that is becoming all too often of a phrase that we repeat here on the news when it comes to land and other related scandals. The feedback, of course, reflecting the same. Inspire, engage, motivate says this is so infuriating. Leaders and those supposed to protect now land gangs.
Ashad Songora says, each morning I pass here going to work. Chills of death rock the village. Mash Bismarck simply says, merciless killings. There's more. Kimutai Isaac says, who are these killers and for what reasons? Lawrence Kinyo says, this thing is now getting out of hand. And finally, at Abdul_Notik, you say, how many more will have to die or get assassinated for the government to act? Instructive to note that all the directors who were killed reported threats against their lives to the nearest repeatedly. Nothing was done. All of them dead. 4 missing.
We'll get into more of your feedback on The Lead from Dennis Onsarigo's story. That link will be posted to our website after this bulletin, but KTN News rolls on right after this break. Stay with us.
Just ahead, the implications of the reducing volumes of the waters of Tana River. Welcome back to KTN Weekend Prime, the Point of News. We're glad you're still with us. We want to take you now to other stories of the day, and we want to focus on the Tana Delta, which is a source of livelihood for thousands of people, whether directly or indirectly. Yet, this critical water mass is under threat, and by extension, the lives of all those people around it.
Tana River is slowly but surely losing its water volume, and now environmentalists are raising the alarm. Sharon Momanyi has just returned from Tana River County with insights into this disturbing development.
It is sunrise in Kipini, a small coastal town in Tana River County. Not once to miss the catch, Katana and his fishing partner Juma are up early. They make ready their gears and set into the river to fish for prawns. For 28 years, this has been Katana's routine.
Hiyo ndo inanipelekea mtoto wangu, nampatia mtoto wangu chakula, naenda hiyo ndo inamsimamia kwa kumpelekea school fee.
But on this particular morning, the catch is little. Skillfully and in a coordinated manner, the fishermen troll a little further, but they're still hard on luck.
Recently, because of a lot of water abstraction upstream, we find that the levels of water that come here have reduced over time, and this affects fisheries. It also affects farming, and you'll realize that some of the local, we have what we call oxbow lakes, which are associated with the river. They no longer get sufficient water.
Kuchangia kwenyewe ni kwamba hatutaki kuona watu wakiharibu mazingira, na kuna hii mambo ya hizi sehemu hizi za kuvua hizi, pengine watu wakikata miti na kuangusha huku. Sasa sisi tutakuwa hatuwezi kuwa mahali kwa kwa kuvua, kwa sababu ni haya maji yakitoa nafasi ndio na sisi watu navua. Kwa hivyo ni muhimu sana watu wakichunga hizi kando za mito.
Katana is one of the many residents in Kipini who depend on this river for their livelihood. Fishing is the main socio-economic activity here.
Taka kuhusu mazingira yasiharibiwe, kwa sababu yakishaharibiwa mazingira na ukikauka mto, watu hapa itakuwa tutaathirika kwa palasenti fulani. Na sisi hatutaki tuharibikiwe, kwa sababu ndio tumeutegemea sana. Kwa sababu tunaenda kuvua kule deep sea ni watu kidogo, wanategemea mto ni watu ni wengi.
Flowing over 1,000 kilometers from the foothills of Mount Kenya, this is the mightiest river in the country, the Tana River. Now, along its flow, the river supports plenty of human activities as well as ecological systems. And here at the tail end of its flow is the Tana Delta, one of the most important wetlands in the region. Other than fishing in the Tana River, farming is another activity that residents engage in. Land in the delta is very fertile, as Zablon Katende testifies. He has his farm just a few kilometers from the shores of the river.
Inasaidia farmers mambo mengi. Kwa mfano kuna wale wakulima ambao wako na minor irrigation schemes ambazo wamezianzisha. Wanategemea huo mto kuvuta maji kwenye mipunga yao, kuvuta maji kwenye mashamba yao, kukuza mamboga kama sukuma wiki, tomato na kadhalika. Inasaidia wakulima kwa mambo mengi sana.
Zablon says that the reducing volumes of Tana River is as shocking as it is a threat to farming activities in the area.
Tangu ni mdogo sijawahi kuziona kwa mbeleni, lakini hivi recently nimewahi kuona mto umekauka kabisa. Hata watu wana cross mto kwa maguu, especially vijiji vya huko juu kidogo, ambayo inajua ni hatari ambayo huo mto kama hautachungwa, hata sisi wakulima wa vyakula mbalimbali, hata wale wakulima ambao wafugaji kwa ng'ombe wao watakosa hata hiyo maji ya kunywa na kadhalika na kadhalika.
The Tana Delta is one that has gained international environmental importance. It supports several communities, large numbers of livestock, wildlife and water birds. So important it is that it was recently declared a Ramsar site, meaning that it is recognized globally as a wetland of great significance. But over the years, the site has been increasingly under threat.
Some of the problems it faces emanate from around the delta itself, but some of them, quite a number of them, also emanate from upstream of the Tana. One of the major problems they have faced in recent years is reduction in river flow and the volume of water. As you know, any delta depends on flooding and deposition of silt to thrive.
It gets worse as the mangrove forests which grow along the river have been getting thinner due to deforestation. Mangroves which are used in so many ways by the residents.
80% ya nyumba za hapa ni za miti. Na mikoko hii ikiwa itakuwa imeangamia, basi jamii yetu itakuwa imeumia sana. Mnafahamu. Athari nyingine ya mikoko ni kwamba hapa hii mikoko inafanya breeding grounds. Hili ni eneo la mazalio ya samaki.
Sema kweli mikoko iko na faida nyingi sana, kama vile kuna madawa za carbon huwa tunapata hapo ndani. Pia kuna faida ya kuni, ile miti ambayo imeoza ikianguka pia tunatoka hizo kuni tunauza, nyingine tunapikia.
Residents here in Kipini have taken it upon themselves to restore and conserve the mangroves.
Tushapanda karibu miti 3,000. Na ni kama hivyo mwenye umekuja on the ground, hii miti hapa ni 2,500 iliyo chini.
Lack of a concerted effort in the conservation of the delta has seen negative environmental effects along the river. The river is not scarce, it is overflowing, causing wanton destruction in its wake. Various organizations exist within the delta, each exerting unique conservation efforts. Wetlands International is one such organization, undertaking to empower the community in Kipini on how to sustainably manage the mangrove trees and the Tana River for their own benefit.
It took a bit longer to implement this project because we wanted to make sure that the issues of sustainability were within the communities and they understood it from the very beginning, not at the end of the project.
Serikali sasa wawe macho sana kuhusiana na rasilimali hii, kwa sababu hii ni rasilimali ambayo ni muhimu sana. Na waweze kutenga fedha kusaidia, kwa sababu mashirika haya yatakwenda zake.
With the Delta boasting vast resources and reaches, there has been some sort of scramble over the area. Private and public developers have been attempting to plant projects in the area. The Delta faces major environmental threats following massive deforestation, large-scale agricultural development, damming, and water diversion to other basins for irrigation.
Any land use plan that will interfere with the community's way of living without giving them alternatives, we will oppose it. Any land use plan that will bring land speculators into that area, we will oppose it.
So bringing in place such projects as conservation of mangroves and coupling them together with income generating activities is one way in which we can bring innovation so that the communities can be able to sustain themselves.
With its unique features, the Tana Delta could easily be a tourist site. The community is calling for more involvement of the county government, both in the conservation and the development of their greatest resource.
Ambapo ukitembea katika sehemu hii ya Kenya, huwezi kuta aina 8, maana Kenya tuna aina 9 ya mikoko. Sisi tumekosa mkoko mmoja tu hapa. Ukitembea katika eneo la mikoko mingine katika Kenya, huwezi kupata intact 8 species ya miti isipokuwa kipini, kwa sababu ya uingilianaji wake wa associated bodies of water.
We need support from everybody, including the KWS, the Forest Department, and all these hosts of NGOs that are embedded in that area.
The Tana River Delta Land Use Plan was launched in July to guide developments in the area and to reduce conflict over land and water resources among local communities. But the Delta still faces a real and present danger. Sharon Momanyi, KTN News, in the Tana River Delta.
And we continue to take your feedback tonight on the lead, the story of the killings in Kiwiri, just giving you the perspective of those there. Charles Kimani on Twitter says, I salute those 2 men who are willing to die for truth and justice. Robert Rono says, what is the work of NIS or the CID?
Ian Mwiruri says that story on killings in Muranga is horrifying. And Joseph Baraza says it's unbelievable that people are being killed yet government is doing nothing.
That's
11
right.
directors.
Yeah. What we're saying, 1 is killed, a 2nd, a 3rd, 4th, 5th, all the way up until 11, and it took the 11th for them now to be summoned to the CID, you know, for protection or discussions or investigations, further investigations into that. Honestly, like one of the tweets we read earlier, how many more have to die?
Of course, and it just smacks of a reluctance that we see in so many parts of this country. Unfortunate reluctance to investigate and you know, place the value of one person's life where it ought to be, because 11 means that there's 11 people too many that have died for land of all things.
Okay, Weed Priest says, where are we supposed to find shelter if our shelter is the knife that stabs us? Making a play, of course, with Kiwiri, which means knife to the body. At Ershad says, the few who are buried there, those who were killed, are buried in fenced sheds outside the homestead. It's like a curse.
Wow. Still looking for a little feedback here. Let's see.
Yeah, let me find one while you look for them. At Agedi says, this Kiwiri Sako killings show how greed and get-rich-quick mentality is in our society and is killing us. I want to just read another one. At MP Kasang says, find out about the group ranches in Kajiado or Narok. There are many frustrations there as well. So more and more of that. Fred Correa says, some powerful hand is behind this land massacre. So keep your comments coming in. The lead is the hashtag we're using at KTN News, at John Alanamu, at Yvonne Okwara. We're also sampling your text messages on the number 22155.
Back after the break.
Welcome back to KTN Weekend Prime. Age is nothing but a number. We often say this, right? For 94-year-old Charles Kamanu, he's probably the best example of this.
Now, owing to various obligations and parental responsibilities, he never quite found the time to formalize his relationship to his lifelong partner. And 23 years later, Kamanu can finally fulfill his 71-year-old bride's dream.
Joy, singing and dancing, that is a pleasant atmosphere here at Munyu PCA Church in Nyeri County as Charles Kamanu prepares to marry his long-life partner, Beatrice Wanjugu. But this is not just an ordinary wedding. Charles, aged 94, decided to finally put a ring on his 71-year-old wife, Beatrice. Together they have raised 9 children, with a number of them now in their matrimonial homes. So one would wonder what finally prompted them to tie the knot. Mr. Bida Wanja, their third-born daughter, says it was an idea that emerged between her and her siblings.
I was feeling like I need to do this for them because those are many years. And that's when that thought came to my mind, and I planned to have a wedding for them. And we all agreed as a family, we are 9 of us, we agreed that we need to have a church wedding for them, as old as they are.
Beatrice and Charles are 23 years apart. Their union had initially received a lot of resentment, even more because Beatrice had children from a previous marriage. But time has moved to prove that age is only a number and love knows no bounds, as their families finally accepted them.
He married my mom when he was quite old. So me, I found a note that sometimes we were shying off to go with him to school.
It was a breathtaking moment for the crowd of about 300 people who attended the union, most of them inspired not only by the two, but the initiative taken by their children to plan a wedding for their parents as a show of gratitude.
David Rudisha played a tactical card to qualify for the 800 meters IAAF World Championship finals, with Nigel Amos almost paying for it by finishing third in a super slow time. Rudisha clocked 1 minute 47 seconds and 70 microseconds in a day that saw other Kenyans impress in their fields. Welcome back to KTN Weekend Prime. Point of news. We were doing our sports news and we apologize for that extended break in between our bulletin, our sports bulletin, owing to a small technical difficulty that we had with one of our studios. But gladly here at KTN, we've got lots of real estate when it comes to studios, live studios that is, so we roll on. The Mashemeji Derby pitting defending champions Gor Mahia against 13-time champions A.F.C. Leopards was abandoned at the 65th minute. The decision was made by officials when some fans caused chaos after center referee Rafael Ndwati awarded Kogalo a penalty in the 65th minute when Jackson Saleh handled Abuba Sibomana's cross. According to the officials, the match had to be called off to ensure the security for the fans.
On the A.F.C. Leopards fans, of course, making this almost important by the A.F.C. Leopards fans. For the Gor Mahia fans, they're still looking at about whether or not they can win the bragging rights for the derby. There are other fans who are very calm, who just came to watch football and would love the game to go on. So you would have...
The game is not going on. I am calling off the game because of security reasons. Period.
Defending Driftwood Sevens champions, Homeboys RFC qualified for the main cup quarter-finals, winning all its group matches to keep alive hopes of emerging champions in Mombasa. There were no major upsets recorded on day one of the tournament, with the big guns now plotting for day two, which actually is today. Beg your pardon, read the wrong intro there. I believe that Homeboys did get bundled out of the quarter-finals. Anyhow, let's look at Lynn Washira's report.
Well, the National Sevens circuit in the year 2015 can only be termed as an unpredictable. Well, it's a year where the term dominance has been rendered meaningless. Here at the Driftwood Sevens, which is the third leg of the National Circuit, a new winner has been registered. Driftwood Sevens champions Kenya Harlequins and Dallas Sevens champions Nakuru Top Fry got into the Driftwood Sevens tournament hoping to bag a second win in the circuit. Queens failed to make it to the main cup semis, while Top Fry set up a final clash with Mwamba RFC. Nakuru's hopes of a consecutive win were soon dealt a blow following a Nelson Oyo red card early into the game that reduced the field of play to 6 players, making it easy for Mwamba to easily terrorize their defense in a one-sided affair. Dan Sikuta, Humphrey Kayange and Colin Sinjera all touched down for a 21-0 win for the Black Shirts.
What stood out for us was our defense. We kept fighting for each other and we kept making the turnover. So I think for us the defense have been well. We came for the cup and we've got it, and we are very happy. I think for the boys, I think that's great stuff coming from Dala in the plate semis. But I think coming to Driftwood and winning it, it's such a good morale booster.
Top Fry Nakuru, who complained of poor officiating in the game, still topped the circuit standings going into the final 2 legs.
We just have to move forward, and considering we are top on the log, we just need to work hard the coming week and of course play well on our tournaments.
Some of the teams expected to shine fell short of the expectations, with the 2015 season proving to be the most competitive. Defending Driftwood Sevens champions Homeboys RFC and defending series champions KCB now have to wait a little longer to lift a trophy.
The competition is going up every time, with every tournament, with every circuit. I mean, we just have to work harder.
We're still going to stick together as a team and to be able to correct our mistakes that we were able to do this weekend and get back to the next tournament and be able to improve on our state.
Well, the successful completion of the Driftwood Sevens, which is the third leg of the National Sevens circuit here at the Mbaraki Sports Club, means that now there are only 2 legs remaining to the end of the National Sevens circuit, with action heading to Nakuru next weekend. Lynn Washira, KTN.
Laser Hill are the winners of this year's East African Secondary Schools Game rugby title. They won the title by accumulation of points in a day that a majority of Kenyan teams failed to sparkle. And as Robinson Okenya reports, Kenya scooped the top spot in the games despite most teams failing in the finals.
The Brookside East Africa Secondary School Championship, brought to you by Brookside. Brookside, nurturing sporting talent.
It was a tough day in office for Kenyan schools in the finals of the Brookside East African Secondary School Games that came to a conclusion in Huye, Rwanda. In ladies basketball, defending championship by East failed to win the regional trophy for a 3rd time as they lost their precious trophy to St. Mary's Chitenda from Uganda. The national champions were left chasing shadows in the match as Nancy Kombe terrorized them, winning only 1 quarter in a match that ended 74-56 in favor of their opponents.
When we are going back to Kenya, I promise Kenyan people that next year we are going to retain our trophy.
In boys basketball, Apai lost to ETG Nyakabiga from Burundi in a heated finals. The match saw the 2013 champions lose in all quarters in a match that had the Burundians take cruise control in the match ending 79-67. The former champions arrive a bit about winning the tournament next year at home.
I cannot promise much, but Apai will go back to our drawing boards. We'll come back bigger, better and stronger to take on the championship at home.
In girls football, Kenya's hope of winning this year's football final was thwarted as PCA Wieta lost to Ecotech from Burundi 2-0 in the final. Efforts by Wieta to come back into the game went unnoticed as they failed to see the back of the net. In volleyball, defending champions Kwanzanze lost their crown to Indangaburezi from Uganda, losing in sets of 3-2. Despite the Kenyan champions fighting hard to retain their crown, Kwanzanze lost the final set 15-9 to give their crown to Uganda. In the boys' tie, Malava lost to Ruzumo from Uganda in sets of 4-3. Laser Hill, however, were the only champions of the day as they won the 15th rugby crown despite losing their final match. It was a heartbreaking final day for the Kenyan teams in the finals of the 14th edition of the East African Secondary School Games that came to a closure today. But despite that, the Kenyan congregation will leave Rwanda knowing that the top spot is well in their hands. Robinson Okenye, KTN Sports, Huye, Rwanda.
All right, and there you have it. John Alanamu decided to go to our sports studio.
You decided to turn off.
It won't get any better with you being at the
No, Yvonne, you're the one who decided to turn off the studio light so I can run away. I don't know. What have I done to deserve this treatment?
But like you said, we are not short of studios right here on KTN News. But
Yeah.
let's get into the feedback of our story tonight. It was all about the killings associated with the Kiwiri land buying firm. J_Njadi, you say land deals in Thika and Moranga are a time bomb waiting to detonate. At Wanjiros says land. Sad. Should the government have a price control on land? John, you have any more on your end?
Yeah, I am Simani says, as much as land possession is a source of heritage, it should not turn us against each other. Humanity should come first. Betty Grace says in Kiswahili, Serikali tafadhali do something. You have all the powers. And Amos Kitui says, where is the government in the whole issue? How about you, Yvonne?
At Nahashan87 says, in exchange for taxes and loyalty, the state must protect the individual from all foreseeable harm as best it can. And Havli One, I hope I pronounced that right, says, wow, Kenya is slowly falling into the hands of organized crime outfits if the lead is anything to go by. My last one, Fashion Guru Vata says, watching The Lead by Dennis Onsarigo, and I'm worried that this issue of land in Kenya is a key thing that leaves a lot in question. God help us.
All right, final one from me. The Truth by NK says, in exchange for taxes and loyalty, the state must protect the individual from all foreseeable harm as best it can.
Right, yeah, just reiterating that one. That's a big one. And of course, we'll continue to get to the bottom of just what is going on in Kiwiri. And just like John, you said, it's not just Kiwiri land saga that's here. We've had another long-standing land wrangle in the country, the Mboi Committee.
Yeah, definitely. That one's got lots of people who've been murdered, lots of people who've disappeared, and it's still going some 20 or so years into the beginning of that controversy. So it's definitely not that, but wider than that, the legacy of killings that are unresolved, whether they be linked to the war on terror or to land deals, and especially with respect to the war on terror, as we saw at the beginning of this bulletin with Ian Wafula, those kinds of things, as long as they continue to go unresolved and uninvestigated, then people start to take things in their own hands, as we've seen in different parts of this country.
That's right. So we will continue to keep our eye on that and get to the bottom of these events in the country. We want to thank you for watching our bulletin tonight on KTN Weekend Prime. Have a great week ahead. My name is Yvonne Okwara Matole. I need to remind you that Mock the Week is up next. John?
And Prophet of War is on KTN Home right now, right after this news bulletin. Thank you very much for joining us. My name is John Allen. Have a great week.